Today, 17th December of 2022, we are all gathered here for the 61st session of Mindfulness for Beginners program. Joining with today from Nissarana Vanaya is Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero. I would like to welcome Bhante for the program today. And also, I would like to welcome everyone joining through Zoom and other media. The agenda for the session today is starting from practice session under the guidance of Bhante, and we will have a Q&A session and also presentation of the mindful reports, followed by the introduction of sharing the introduction of the mindfulness guides. Then we will have a talk from Bhante about the mindfulness, which help us to enhance our practice of mindfulness. Then we will wrap up our session. So I would like to invite Bhante for the kick off today's session. Over to you, Bhante.
Hello everybody, we are connected here with another program. So initially we will take some time to do an activity that is related to mindfulness. So today I thought of doing an activity. For this you need a piece of paper and a pen. So if you can gather it quickly, we can start the activity. You can use the Zoom hand to show whether you are ready.
And also, please be noted that this is the video on session. Please feel free to turn on your cameras. Thank you.
I think some of you are ready. Do we need more time? Shall we go ahead? Okay, I think we can start the activity. So today we have a piece of paper and a pen. Right now we are going to write few things regarding ourselves on this piece of paper. So I am going to ask you a question and you can write few things that comes to your mind. Okay, the question is, what are the things that bring meaning to your life? So you may have various things in your life, so think about them. Just write few things that brings meaning to your life. Okay, so do we need more time? So you have to think a little bit, think about your life and list down few things that brings meaning to your life. If you are ready, we can start sharing. Rajika is asking how many. As many as you can think of, right? Probably 10 or so. If you can think anything else, you can take few seconds, few minutes to write them down. Okay, if you are ready, we can go ahead with sharing. Nadeep, you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess I have to. Yes, Bhante. So I would like to actually put it into two dimensions. Like one is my spiritual life and also my normal life, day-to-day life. From the spiritual point of view, spirituality point of view, I had a good teachers and I'm enjoying it. So because foremost thing for my life is the happiness, health, and also a bit of wealth to not carry on the life as usual. But when it's come to the happiness, I think from my spirituality side, I'm very happy because I have teachers and good instructions and all that good. And the other side, health and the wealth side, that also I'm kind of an average. So, and also I prefer like the generosity and altruism. So they all makes of what I am, and then I'm actually happy with all that things. And also But it's a bit difficult to, keep that up as I getting older, especially, the health and the partly happiness in my normal life. But whereas it practicing the partly spiritual side of the life helped me to, overcome what is the other unsatisfactoriness of the normal life. Yeah. Yeah, that's from me, Bhante.
Right. I would like to.
Oh, it's a very philosophical answer. I don't know.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, Chamari. You can unmute yourself, I guess. Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Avassarai Bhante. It was a no-brainer for me. I think this is a period I'm going through. So what gives meaning in life right now is pretty much the spiritual life, listening to Dhamma, contemplating it, trying to understand how things actually are, trying to practice the Dhamma, being generous and kind, being helpful to self and others. It used to be just be helpful to others, and I'm bringing what needs to be helpful to me as well. And things like friends, family, they are functioning, but they're not bringing a lot of meaning in life. It feels like these things are a little bit 2D, and practicing Dhamma is more 3D. That's the best way I can explain it.
Okay, you mentioned something valuable. Earlier, main focus was your family and friends probably, right? But later, with time, you realize that you have to focus on yourself as well. That's important. That's a mistake we usually make. We focus on the family and friends, but we don't get to focus on ourselves, developing our mind in some kind of a lasting peace. So in a way, this activity is addressing this question, right? Now, if you are not focused on some kind of a practice of finding peace in your mind, then you might have a list of things, probably your children, probably your family, probably your job, maybe some of the sports that you play on it may be cricket, right? So those things are there, right? So in a way, in this activity, we try to focus on the things that really matter to us. So thank you for sharing. When we go forward, we will figure out more details about it. Okay. Anybody else would like to share? Yeah, Samantha.
Thank you, Bhante. For me, the first thing that came to my mind when Bhante asked that question was simply just to be happy, stress-free, be kind, help others, and then be healthy in life, be active, and then my mind turned into the Dhamma. It's always, I always try to be in the Dhamma, and by this time, I think now in my life, I think I really want to put the Dhamma into practice and include my meditation practice daily to make that really a habit and not just talk about it. And be more mindful throughout the day, and learn the Dhamma more, and really immerse in the Dhamma. Yeah, that's it, Bhante.
Okay, thank you for sharing. As I mentioned earlier, now your priorities are a bit different. Instead of focusing on the material things, instead of focusing on the outside people, you may focus on things that matter to us. probably the outside people, material things, they too matter. But still, we have to have a certain kind of attention towards the things that will bring real peace, a lasting peace in our mind. Okay. So that's important. It's valuable that you mentioned those. Okay, Rajika.
Avasarai Bante, when you ask the question, what's the meaning of this life? I feel like everyone in this life, we as human, we always looking for happiness. And when I more investigated, I feel like no material things really make meaning for me, for my life, but at least I have the material things to survive and then go beyond that. So that's, I think, one of the things I'm thankful for. Because I know if I didn't have that material things for survive, I can't go beyond that. So I'm happy with that. And then having the good health as well. It's the other thing that I can go beyond this surface level, deep into the to find the meaning of my life is those two things. I'm happy with that. But when I go beyond that, I feel like having a good family background, especially understanding husband, like I have all the freedom in this world to do whatever I want. So having that freedom to find the meaning of this life is more important to me. And then the friends, I have many Kalyan Mitras that I can never ask for. If I have any personal problem or Dhamma problem or any problem, I can go into them and I can solve this the problem. So having those kind of true friends, it's something that I really I find it's very meaningful in my life. And the walking in this, no matter whatever I have in this life, despite all those things, walking on this path is the most important thing for me. Finding 15 years ago that there is a path, and I keep walking from the day I found this path is actually the, I think, true meaning for my life. And going beyond that, I can helping others to walk in this path is also, I find it's kind of meaning for me, because I have kind of caring nature. I always try to help others. Sometimes I get hurt as well, but still I don't stop. And I provide more, like I try to provide emotional support for others. Maybe I'm emotionally hurt, I don't know. But helping others that way to walk in this path, I think it's kind of meaning of my life. I don't know if it makes any sense, but those are the things, when you ask that question, those are the things that came into my mind. Thank you very much, Bante.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. You can have different things. We value things differently. So that's fine. So this is your selection, right? Okay, Arosha, you want to share something? Yeah, the question was, what are the things that bring meaning to your life? Okay. Yes.
Thank you very much, Bante. So apologies, I was slightly late this morning. So yes, for me, that things that bring meaning to my life at a abstract level, at some level, but to say, yeah, to do good things and to do no harm. So that those are kind of my touchstones, if you will, about what I want to do in my thoughts, actions, and words, are to do things that are positive and beneficial to myself and others, and avoid harm to myself and others. That's, as this conversation was going, that's what came into my mind, Bante. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Gihanta, yes.
Thank you, Bante. It's interesting you raised this question. When we concluded the session last Saturday, I had this question in my mind: what is the purpose of my life? And I was going to ask you something about it today. And it's interesting that you raised this question this morning. So this is a question I've had from my very young days, even as a teenager. And for me, it is very linked to my work. And a lot of my family and friends will know this. But I've
recently been through a career transition, and for a long time, I felt a great hollowness because I felt I wasn't in the right area of work. And that's so important because it affects everything. Sometimes my wife says, you have a family, you have friends and all that, and children, why is it sometimes you're a little unhappy? And that was linked to my focus of my life in terms of my work. And, again, I don't want to take too much time, but I will say this now because I have found great happiness recently, because I have felt I'm finally aligning to my sense of purpose in my work. And the Dhamma, I was born to a Buddhist family, so Dhamma has always been part of my life. The Dhamma is in some ways an enabling environment. So I'm not necessarily aiming for nirvana yet, but it is definitely a sense of peace. It is an enabling environment. It helps to give clarity to my life. And recently, like I said, by choosing the right career focus, that has given me immense satisfaction. And even though my life necessarily has not changed remarkably, there are still challenges, ups and downs, criticisms, material loss and gain, whatnot. Because I feel in my heart I have a sense of purpose, it helps me to deal with these things better. And of course, the Dhamma and what we're doing now with mindfulness, it has given me great strength to find that clarity. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you for sharing. It's a valuable question that your wife has raised, right? You have certain things. You have these material things, you have family, you have friends, but still you are unsatisfied. You feel something is lacking. So that's a good sign that we need to find more meaning in life. We need to find satisfaction in our mind, right? So it's a valid question. Most of the people, that question, they ask themselves, right? I have so many things, I have these things, but still I feel lacking. Still I feel unsatisfied. So it's a valuable point that you have mentioned. Yes, Namanta?
I think, yeah, thank you so much, Bhante, and very good topic. I think I just jotted down my priorities. They all developed over time. There were many instances when I was needing help from others. So in those instances, I decided whenever I can, I will help others who are, good people. And so that's number one, helping others who, having great minds or good habits, great people. Then number two is clarity of mind. Because if my clarity of mind is not there, then I can't help the other person. It's impossible. Also clarity in relationships, all throughout, so that you understand other people well. Clear communication is the next one. Then honesty. I keep a conscious eye on my own mental honesty. Then my emotional well-being, physical well-being, because you have to be alive to, do good things. If you neglect health, you can end up pretty bad pretty quickly these days due to bad food and everything. Then, intelligence is another priority. Learning continuously as a habit, so that I can improve continuously. That also ties to helping others, because if you only learn continuously, you can help the others better. Healthy career, because I have had jobs which are so stressful, I hated them. So I decided, okay, having a healthy job in a healthy company, a company that's healthy to do a job, will be another priority. So these are the nutshell priorities for me. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you, Namanta. Thank you for sharing. Now, I think this question, what you're thinking about your life. So that's important. That's the main idea. Now, when you ask yourself questions like this, then you get to think. Then you start to think about your life. You think about your priorities. So it's important, right? Then when we list down the things that bring value to our life, maybe we may have material things, right? We may have certain people, we may have hobbies or some other things that we like. In addition, of course, we may have practicing Dhamma, finding lasting peace, right? Virtue, these kind of things, right? Now, when we have such a list, there are certain things that might, with time, that might disappear. Okay, let's say your job, those opportunities might disappear with time, right? Then there may be certain people in your life, right? They may probably they may go away. Sometimes they pass away. So those things happen, right? It's the uncertainty of life. Nothing is certain. We don't know what's around the corner. So when we have things that we value, we might think that these things are permanent, but you have to know that they are also temporary. So certain things, they may disappear. With time, things will change. Friends become foe, right? So that's how it is. So when we think about our life, when we focus on the things that bring value to our life, maybe we can change priorities. We can prioritize finding lasting peace in our mind. We can prioritize virtue. We can prioritize helping others. So those things usually, although material things might disappear, although the change come to material things, usually these kind of things, practice finding peace in your mind, these things won't change with time. So it's important that we prioritize things that matter to us, things that bring real meaning, real peace to our lives, right? So that's what I liked Chamari's comment. She mentioned that earlier I was focusing on outside things. Earlier I was focusing on outside people, but now I focus on myself more and more. You can focus on your health, you can focus on your practice, you can focus on finding peace in your mind. If you prioritize these things, then of course all the other things might disappear, but you may find lasting peace in your mind. So that's important. Maybe you are not ready. Maybe you are at a stage that you have to prioritize your family. You have to prioritize your profession. So that's fine. But always know that these are not the real priorities. These things are temporary. These things may change with time. So you have to have an idea what are the real priorities are. What are the things that matter to you really. So that's the idea of today's activity, just to get you thinking and get you think about your priorities, whether these priorities are correct, whether these are the things that you want in your life. So I hope it was helpful and it got you thinking, right? So with that, I think we can move forward to the next part.
The next segment of today's program is presenting mindfulness reports and also the Q&A session. I would like to invite Sonali to conduct this session today. Over to you, Sonali. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadir. So we have received 2 reports today. I will start with the first one. Walking meditation. Primary object, watching feet. Initially aware that body was in standing position with weight of feet on ground. More prominent in one than the other. Warmth on soles and cooler on tops of feet. Areas not touching floor, such as the arch and areas between toes, noted. Started walking after the thoughts noted to lift, move, and then place foot. Walked with eyes closed most of the time. Noted when lifting the heel, mid-foot, then toes. When whole foot was in the air, only weight felt on foot or floor felt. No foot or floor felt. The other foot bearing the weight of the whole body, muscle tightening, unsteadiness at times, pressure increasing on foot, uneven flow noted. Once the lifted foot was being placed, the heel of opposite foot lifted automatically. Noted mind could only watch one foot at a time, and one movement only two. Lifting, moving, or placing. The speed of walking changed automatically. Walked for 1 hour. Sitting meditation. Watching breath. Noted cool in and warmer out breath. Initially, in breath longer, but soon becomes equal in length to out breath. And then breath broke up. Aware of possibility of falling asleep, so was alert to the possibility. Sounds heard, few thoughts came and went, but despite awareness fell asleep briefly. Watched breath again, which was very subtle, more prominent on one side. Noted passing discomfort in chest. Mind went back to breath. Meditated for 1 hour. With much gratitude to Bhante and organizers. End of report.
Okay, thank you for sharing your experience with the group. Now, let's say there is this observation while walking. Then there is this observation while sitting, right? Now, when I say about repetitive practice, when I talk about repetitive practice, I say that just continue with your walking, no matter what, right? Just continue with your sitting, no matter what. Sometimes you may feel sleepy. Sometimes you may feel awake. Sometimes you may feel that your mind is calm. Sometimes you may feel the mind is all over the place, right? Sometimes you feel comfort in your body. Sometimes the body is painful. Still, just do the walking, do the sitting, right? You just continue that time period. Let's say if you have some time daily, probably like 1 hour, 2 hours for the meditation, just do the walking. 1 hour of walking, 1 hour of sitting, no matter what. Whether you are comfortable, whether you feel like doing it or not, just do it, right? Whether you feel sleepy or awake, just do it. Just spend that 1 hour walking. Just spend that 1 hour sitting, right? That's the idea of the practice. When you do this, your practice grows. Now, usually what happens is that we get lost in these things that come, right? When you are sleepy, you get lost in it. When your mind is all over the place, you get lost in it. When your body feels aches, pains, you get lost in it. That's how we usually are. But the practice is see through this temporary situation and continue. That's the idea, right? You are seeing through. The sleepiness is there, but you just go through it. You are not avoiding. You are just sitting, and sometimes you may feel sleepy, sometimes you fall asleep, but still you continue. You go through that difficulty. When your mind is not calm, when it is all over the place, still you just do the walking, right? So that's how we should be practicing. Whatever the temporary things that come, we are not moved by them. We don't give up due to them. Instead, we go through them. So this is called the shortest path, right? If you keep avoiding, then you are looking for a longer path, right? So whatever that comes in your sitting, whatever that comes in your walking, just go through that experience. Allow that experience to pass. When you feel sleepy, just sit through the session till you are awake, till you complete your time. When you feel pain, aches in your body, just sit through the pain, aches till you complete your time. When you don't feel like walking whatsoever, just do it. Just do the walking, right? Again and again and again. You walk the 1 hour, and maybe when you finish it, you feel a lot of energy. You feel like you can walk 1 more hour. So that's the idea when it comes to practice. You should be continuing no matter what are the temporary situations are. No matter what are the temporary things, you just see through them. You just continue your practice. And when you stay for 15-20 minutes, you realize it goes away. Again, something new appears. So that's the idea I want to give. You could feel sleepy. Sometimes you fall asleep, but still do the sitting, right? When you walk, also various things come, but still just do the walking, right? We are not moved by these temporary things. Instead, no matter what, we do the walking time, we complete the walking time. We do the sitting time, we complete the sitting time, right? So that's the idea I want to give. We are happy that you are practicing. We are happy that you are sharing. Continue with your practice like this.
Thank you, Bhante. I will move on to the second report. Mindful sitting. Sat on the cushion and became aware of the sitting posture. Closed eyes gently, and the familiar body scan took place. Adjusted the posture mindfully into a more balanced position. When the breath noted, it was felt around the nostrils as cooler in-breath and warmer out-breath. Was aware of the sensations of breath for a few minutes before thoughts arrived. There was confidence through the practice that any secondary object emerging would pass away, and these did. Attention returned naturally to the primary object of breath afterwards. However, even the primary object was going through change. Temperature of in and out breath seemed neither cold nor warm. Sensations around the nostrils were subtle. Sounds in the background noted before the awareness returned to the now subtle breath. Felt the slow swinging of the upper body, a bit like a pendulum, but with a slight movement forward and backwards. Wasn't sure if the physical movement was actually happening or if it was just a perception. Breath has changed further and now felt subtle multiple waves of air near nose and mouth area. Thoughts came and went. Breath noted a bit more prominently again. Sat for 50 minutes. Mindfulness during the day. With Christmas approaching, there are many social events with family members, relatives, and also friends. There's not a lot of excitement in the mind about these. It is becoming easier to choose how many of these to take part in. Unsurprisingly, the need to interact with big groups has reduced considerably. Sitting quietly or contemplating Dhamma is preferred much more. Noted how unfamiliar, meaningless, and the conversations at a social event with relatives last weekend were. I felt very uninformed and a bit stupid for not knowing anything about football, World Cup, or Netflix series about the royal family, and so on. There is less and less interest in the mind for such things, but the uncomfortable feeling increased as much time went on. It felt like a duty to meet relatives who have come from abroad after a while, but I couldn't regulate emotions very well among such frivolous conversations. Overriding feeling was that of wasting each other's time. While writing the report, it is apparent that I was judging others, expecting them to be more sensible. Now, with the calmer mind, I know this is not a fair assessment of them. Again, the observer part of the mind was aware accurately of the emotional drama that was unfolding, although it felt like the emotional mind won against the observer this time. Dear Bhante, look forward to hearing your valuable feedback on how to strike a better balance in situations like this. Much merit to Bhante and organizers. That's the end of report.
Okay, now in your sitting report, you are mentioning that secondary objects, they are changing, they are passing, right? But later, you realize even the primary object, the breath that you are observing, that too is subjected to change. That too is changing. So that's a very valuable observation. Now, initially you thought that this only happens to the secondary objects. No, even to the primary object, that same thing is happening. Change, that is the fabric of everything. That's what behind everything, right? So you start to see that. You start to see that it's a valuable improvement in your practice. When you see changing breath, that is the change that's in the fabric of this world, right? Probably for years and years, you didn't notice this change. Reasoning, you didn't pay enough attention. That's the only reasoning. When you pay attention, you start to see the change. You start to see how rapidly the breath is changing. In a way, your entire world is shaking. Your entire world is shaking because this is the world that is changing. Breath is an indicator of the world, right? When the breath is changing, your entire world is changing. When you see that change, it's natural that you get certain motions. You get, sometimes you feel, like shaking. Sometimes you feel like you are moving back and forth. Various things are there. In a way, you are getting ready for a roller coaster ride, right? Now it is starting to, go downhill, and you feel the vibration. You feel scary. It is natural. It is natural because whatever things that you thought that are permanent, you see the change in them. You thought the breath is permanent. You thought that only change come to the secondary objects. No, even the primary object, that is changing. So this is a turning point when it comes to the practice. You start to see the change in this breath. And when you observe that change more and more, you notice how rapidly it is changing. At the beginning, probably after 40 minutes only, you notice the change, right? Breath is becoming subtler, or breath is becoming shorter, something like that you will say, right? But when you start to notice this change, when you observe that change, when you look for that change from the beginning, then you see it is so rapidly changing. So rapidly changing, there are no two similar breaths. That rapidly it is changing, right? When it is changing, certain defected things appear in your body. You feel like you are moving back and forth. You feel like you can't maintain the posture. You feel like you are vibrating, shaking. So various things are there. Various deformations appear in your body. So allow them to be. You don't have to control it. This is a change that is happening with the changing breath. When you see the changing breath, this is expected. These deformations are expected in your body, right? Body is shaking, body is moving back and forth. You can't maintain the posture. You feel like sweating. You feel like various things are there, right? So allow it to be, allow it to happen. Think that this is the changing world. Now you are experiencing the real change, right? So it's a good period in your meditation. Just again and again, go and experience. It's not within a single day. For weeks, probably it will continue. Just experience it. Just see how the breath is changing. Just see the body's reactions to the changing breath, or your reactions to the changing world. This is the world that is changing. And the later part, right? the second part, right, regarding social events, right? So that's also related to the practice. That's also related to the first part, which is changing breath. Now you start to see the real situation behind these social events. Now it's near Christmas. You feel like it's holidays, but actually you are more busy, right? You have to attend so many social events. You have to do the small talk, right? And when you have this attitude, you really see what are the meaning of these things. What are the meaning of talking about these things? Sometimes we talk about football. The World Cup is running these days, right? Then various other things. We tend to talk a lot about these things. But do they really matter to us? They don't matter. We just watch hours and hours of news. We just spend hours and hours on social media trying to find something meaningful, trying to satisfy this feeling of lacking. But when you practice, you really see there's no real importance in these things. Sometimes you have to go attend these social events, right? You don't want to, but still, sometimes you have to go, right? Then sometimes you have to talk with people, but still see a certain part of your mind. It knows that there's no real meaning spending hours and hours talking to people. Instead, there are important things that you should be paying attention to, right? Practicing mindfulness, finding peace in your mind. This practice, that's where your attention should be, right? So it seems like your mind is understanding this little by little. That's why that lacking feeling is there. Although you are talking to other people, you feel lacking. You feel this is meaningless. You are in the middle of a party, right? All the people, they are talking, dancing, drinking, but still you feel some kind of a unsatisfactoriness in you, right? So these are good signs. These are signs that you are ready. Your mind is ready to find a lasting peace, right? If you are enjoying the world, if you are enjoying the parties, if you are enjoying social events, then probably you are not ready. Probably you are not ready. Probably you need more time to realize this. You need more time to understand this, right? But when you are ready, when your mind is ready to mature, you feel, although I spend hours and hours, there is no real meaning in this. Although I talk to these people, they are not talking something worthwhile. Although I am in a party, I feel lacking inside my mind, right? So this feeling, this attitude, it's a valuable one, right? It means that your mind is ready. It means your mind is ready. But you can't go and tell other people because their minds are not ready, right? Their minds are not ready. They are still dancing. They are still drinking. They are still enjoying the party, right? So you shouldn't be going and disturbing them. You shouldn't be going and lecturing them. That's not the way. Let them enjoy. Let them dance. Let them drink, right? That is the way. Tell them drink more and more. One day you will realize, right? Tell them dance more and more. One day you will realize. Tell them spend more and more hours on social media. Spend all the day attending social events. And one day they will realize. One day their mind too will be ready to accept this message. Till that point, you have to focus on your practice. You have to focus on your practice. Just continue with your mindfulness. Just continue paying attention to your inner self, right? It will probably be a silent sermon for the surrounding people. And when they are ready, they will naturally approach you. Sometimes they may ask a question, right? Then only you can give this answer. Then only they are ready to accept it. Otherwise, don't go lecturing people. because that world is real to them. That world is real to them. That world is so solid to them, right? They don't see this change. They don't see the changing breath. They don't see how rapidly this world is changing. So you shouldn't be going and lecturing them. Instead, allow them to be. Tell them, enjoy the world more and more. It is permanent. It seems like permanent, right? Dance more and more, drink more and more. And one day they will come to you. One day they will tell you that this world is lacking. Some kind of a lacking feeling is there in my mind. Although I am in a party, I feel like lacking. Although I talk to other people, I feel meaningless, right? So then you can give this message. Till that day, you have to focus on your inner peace. You have to focus on your practice. And probably it will be a silent sermon for the surrounding, silent sermon for the family and friends. Okay, thank you for sharing, and continue with your practice.
Thank you, Bhante. That seems to be the way for most of us these days with social engagement. So it's good to know about separating yourselves and what the right time to approach others and all of that. Now I think it's time, we have finished the reports. It's time for questions. If anyone's got any question, please raise your Zoom hand and I'll let you unmute yourself. There is one hand. Samantha, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you, Bhante. Yeah, that was a really helpful advice Bhante gave to me as well in the talk. I was just, it made me think that it would be lovely to lead a life where you have that inner stability and inner happiness, and everything around you, whatever's going on, will go on, and you have no control. And to be able to have a stability where you don't have a Teflon mind, where you just let things go and not absorb things, and you can just sort of like everything will bounce off you, and you can still remain calm and sort of like stable and mentally sound, and not get involved in anything. That I presume to gain that sort of stability of the strength of the mind, that comes gradually within the practice, that unattachment and unconditionality. So, did I get unmuted? Yeah. To just carry on until you strengthen the practice, Bhante.
Can you repeat last few sentences? I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah, just basically in order to sort of remain that inner strength, to gain that inner strength where you are not affected by the outside world, and the unconditionality, it'll just develop through one's practice gradually, and so that one can live in society with everything going around you, but you remain stable and with that inner peace of mind and inner happiness. Hence, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, so it will come gradually with time, with practice. Probably within few months, few years, you can see this. You can see the signs, right? So it's a gradual process. It is developing gradually. So what you have to do is that you have to make sure that you are spending some time daily on your formal practice. Let's say mindful walking, mindful sitting. At least try to do 30 minutes each, right? Daily. And continue for few weeks, few months. When you continue, when you do that, you start to see how this quality that you are mentioning, how that quality is appearing inside your mind, right? Within you feel like earlier you got moved by these situations, you got moved by these people, but now you are not moved so much. still you feel like you are moving, but you are not moved so much, right? So that's the gradual process. Little by little, you realize this. Little by little, you develop this quality. You are in the world. Yeah? You are living your life. You are among the people. You go to your work. But still, you feel like this, some kind of a lasting peace is appearing gradually. Although the certain problems come, although you have to deal with various people, although things are changing, you don't feel like you are affected so much. You don't feel like your mind is so much moved by them, right? So that's the gradual process. That's the gradual practice that is developing. It's not like the world is disappearing. The world is there. World is there. It's just that you lose the interest in that world. That's the change that will happen. That's the change that will appear in your mind. And that is the source of lasting peace, right? The world is there. If you pay attention, it becomes vivid and colorful. But your mind is not interested in it. That's what I wanted to mention even during earlier report. Now that is there. The people, they talk the usual stuff, right? Usual events are happening. World Cup is happening. Those things are happening. But your mind is not interested in it. That's the difference. That's the difference. If you try to get rid of the world, then it's a problem. You can't get rid of the world. Instead, your mind will lose interest in it. Right? Now, that's the idea. Now, I can give one example from Buddha's life. Probably you all know this, you heard this, right? He was enjoying a luxurious life for years and years, right? Dancing girls, singing girls, various things are there. For probably like 3-4 months, he was in a certain mansion and spending time drinking, dancing, all those things, right? So he is used to that enjoyment. He is used to that life. So the girls are dancing, they are singing, playing music for him, right? But one day he lost interest in it. The dancers, it's the same, right? Sense pleasure, it's the same. But he lost interest in it, right? So instead of watching the dance, he turned the other way. He was looking towards the wall. As soon as he turned the other way, the entire world disappears. Those dancing girls, they also stopped. Music, that also stopped. Because they know now it doesn't make sense anymore, right? That he is not enjoying us anymore. That feeling they got, that attitude they got. As soon as he turned the other way, music stops. Dancing stops, right? Again, if you turn this way, then the music will start. Dancing will start, right? So that's the same thing that will happen to the world. The world is there. But if your mind loses interest in it, then it feels like you are looking the other way. You are staring at the wall. Instead of watching the dance, you stare at the wall. So that difference will appear in your mind. That is what's happening. So you can see, you can witness it. It is gradually developing. Continue with your formal practice. Spend at least 1 hour for your formal practice. Then try to be mindful during your day-to-day activities. And gradually you see this quality is appearing. Gradually you see this is the source of lasting peace, right? So continue, and that's the way.
Thank you, Bhante. That's very inspirational. Thank you, Sadhu.
Samantha, would Gihanta like to unmute and ask you a question?
Gihanta, we can't hear you.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now, Bhante?
Yeah.
Okay. I have one comment and one question. Comment is in relation to what we discussed earlier. You asked about the meaning of life, and I have been contemplating this for a long time, and where I have got to is that there does not appear to be an inherent meaning of life as such. But I guess depending on our inclinations, our interests, our capabilities, all of that, we might choose a certain purpose. And I feel the purpose is what purpose you give your life, and that's what it is. And my question is, and I think you have talked about this before, but yeah, I'd like to understand what you think is the meaning of life and what you think is the purpose of life. Thank you.
Okay, so sometimes, there's this sensory, right? Now, disciple comes to the teacher and asked, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life, right? This was the question. And the teacher answered, realize that there is no meaning. Realize that there is no purpose, right? So that's the answer that was given. When you practice, gradually you lose interest in this question, right? So that's what happens. If you chase after something, then of course you tend to suffer, right? You tend to get various situations. You tend to face various situations. So that's natural, right? This is more like stopping, right? Instead of chasing, we stop. We stop looking. We stop searching, right? In a way, you realize there is no real meaning. You find lasting peace. When you find lasting peace, you don't get any idea, any more desire to find meaning, right? When you find lasting peace, you don't need more things, more material things, more certain spiritual things. That searching, that seeking will stop, right? So that's the way, that's the practice. So in a way, we are born here on this earth as humans, not to be born again, but we usually tend to spend, we usually spend our time on various other things. We forget this priority. We put importance in certain other things. We spend our entire life on them, right? Now really think about people, how they are spending their life. Let's say 8 years, what they have done, right? They have done their studies, probably working, then raise their children, build families, build homes, and towards the end of it, they are sick, right? So they can't really do anything. They just take medicine. They are sick. They function somehow. So this is the life usually most of the people they spend, right? So if you can really think, what is the purpose? We are born as humans not to be born again. We are born with that potential, but we forget that priority. We postpone that priority. Instead, we do various other things. That's the world. That's the herd. That's how majority will do. Among this majority, there are few people who will find lasting peace. Among this majority, there are few people who will change their priorities. In a way, there are few black sheeps in this herd, right? So that's the idea. If you want to be the herd, that option is always available. If you want to be a black sheep, then it's difficult. Of course, it's difficult, right? But that path is also there. So choice is yours. You have to prioritize what matters to you. You have to think and decide how I'm going to spend my time, right? So that's the answer that I get.
Thank you you, Bhante. I hope it answered the question, Gyanta. And if there's any more questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we will move on. I can't see anyone else interested at the moment. So over to you, Navi, to continue with the rest of the session.
Much merit, Sonali. Thank you very much for conducting the session today. Now I will share the instructions for beginners sheet. So I share the instruction for the mindfulness for beginners here. So the way we start is the watching through these two videos developed by the assistance of Venerable monks from Nissarana Vanaya, one for mindful walking and the other one for mindful sitting. Have a good look at those videos and get the basic right. And most important thing is that your practice. So follow the instructions and start the practice at least with 5 minutes daily. Mindful sitting and mindful walking. Set aside a small time and continue it. And once you continue your practice, say 2 hours after a week, send us your feedback. How would your practice progress with all the information about your mindful walking, about your mindful sitting? And also don't forget to include the how you extend your mindfulness to the other part of your life, your daily routines, your work, at home, all those situations, all your observation. Please include everything into your report and send it to us. We are happy to present all your reports to the Bhante and for the further instruction. And also, as time permits, we will allow some time for you to ask verbal questions as well. We have a Google form here as well. Use that Google form and also the email address mentioned here. You can directly send us a report, or if you find it difficult to send the report through the Google form, yes, use the email address and send us. The session will conduct every Saturday in Melbourne time. This is the summertime, 6:30, and also in Sri Lankan time, 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and across Europe it's 7:30 morning, I assume. Bear with me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that's pretty much in it, and hopefully that instruction will help you to start with the beginner's mind. That is the most important thing. If you're getting frustrated or getting upset your practice, forget it. Start as a beginner. And always keep in mind that beginner's mind is the way to start. With that, we will move on to the next segment of our session today, which is listening to the Dhamma talk from Venerable Bhante. That helps us to practice our mindfulness. Over to you, Bhante.
Thank you, Nadeep. So I think we can take probably like 15 minutes more to discuss a little bit more about the practice. Now today we have been discussing how to practice, how to make sure that you are continuing, how to continue our practice among these difficulties, right? So I may add some information regarding the same topic, right? Now, it is important that we find some time to focus on ourselves instead of focusing on other people, instead of focusing on finding various things in your life, instead of focusing on money. You should focus on yourself. Probably at least if you can focus on yourself 1 hour per day, it is valuable. At least 1 hour out of 24 hours. Can you focus on yourself? Can you spend time on your own? That is the idea. That is important. Somebody said, if you are not spending at least half of your time focusing on yourself, then you are a slave. I can't remember the person. It's a popular quote, right? If you can't spend half of your awake time on yourself, then you are a slave. Half of awake time is probably like more than 10 hours. Not more than 10 hours, probably like 8 hours. Let's say 8 hours, right? If you can't spend at least 8 hours on yourself, then you are a slave. He is saying, right? At least can you start with 1 hour? You can go to your work. You can spend time with your family. You can do various things. But tell them, I need at least 1 hour per day to focus on myself. I am spending so many hours for you. I am spending so many hours for work. I'm spending so many hours for my family. Can I at least have 1 hour per day? Right? Just to be with yourself. Just to understand your mind. Just to know what are the thoughts, feelings that you have. Right? That attention given to oneself is important. That's why we ask you to at least just walk for 30 minutes per day. Just paying attention to yourself. At least sit 30 minutes per day, paying attention to yourself. If you can't find that space, then you are a slave. At least 1 hour, if you can't spend focusing on yourself, focusing on your thoughts, emotions, focusing, being mindful, then you are a slave. Right? So that's why we say it is important that you spend some time on your formal practice. You reserve some time for yourself. You tell your family, you tell your work that I need some time for myself. Otherwise, eventually, you are going to break. Right? You do various 101 things per day. You are exhausted. You don't stop. You run. And one day you will break. One day you will break, either physically or mentally. That will happen, right? So it's important that we pay attention to ourselves. We try to listen to the message that this body is saying. It is whispering various messages, but we are not listening. Our attention is somewhere else. Sometimes the body is saying that you need some food. But you keep ignoring that message. You are not listening to that message. Till you finish work, probably you'll postpone it a few hours. Sometimes the body is suggesting that you need some water. But you are busy. You can't pay attention to that. You continue till you get a break. So in a way, if you pay attention, if you are aware, this body is whispering. Body is whispering things that you have to do. Sometimes it is asking for a bathroom break, but you keep postponing, right? For hours and hours. Some people I used to know that they probably spend 8 hours per day without a bathroom break. 8 hours per day, right? Imagine the difficulties they go through. And they consume little water just to avoid going to the bathroom. That type of attitude they have towards life. That is how they are spending their time. So can they think about some kind of a lasting peace? Can they think about their physical and mental health like that? They are totally focused on some other thing. They are totally focused on earning money. They are totally focused on other people sometimes. But if you pay attention to yourself, if you focus on yourself, suddenly you hear this whispering from your body. It is asking for some water. It is asking for a break. It is asking for some food. Sometimes it is asking for a nap. Right? You just have to pay attention. As soon as you pay attention, you hear the message. That's why we say you have to listen to the body. You have to learn the art of listening to your body. Right? When, let's say, before you fall ill, sometimes body is giving you a message, even few days before. If you pay attention, you can really feel that something is coming. I have to take a break. Probably I need to take some herbal tea or something. If you listen to that earlier message, then of course you will be much better off. You can manage the sickness much better if you can read those early signs. In order to read, you just have to pay attention. When you pay attention, you suddenly notice this message from your body. This message, it is asking for some break. It is asking for a nap. It is suggesting you that you are too tired. So you just have to listen to that. You just have to spend some time on it. And when you do, you can avoid much greater troubles down the road. So that's why we say, spend some time on yourself. Let's say there's a problem. There's a difficulty. Instead of arguing with people, instead of, trying to solve this problem, just go for a walk. Just go for a walk alone. Right? Probably like spend 30-40 minutes and come back. When you come back, probably you can find some answer. When you come back, you are not emotionally involved. You can respond to your family members. So it's a good way to take a break. If you are emotionally involved, if you are emotional, it's good to take a break. Go for a coffee, spend some time. Go for a walk in nature. If you take that break, then probably you won't make things worse. If you are emotionally involved and if you react, then of course you make things worse. So these type of things are valuable to your life. Instead of reacting, you just take a break. Instead of answering, you just go for a walk. And when you do that, you get your thoughts cleared. You get a better idea about the situation. So that's how we should be spending our time. That's why we say it is important that we should spend some alone time. Spend some time on ourselves. Just being aware of our body. Just being aware of our thoughts, emotions. That's why some people, when they go for a retreat, when they spend 1 or 2 days there, it suddenly they find some answer to a problem that they were having. Suddenly they want to go home, try to implement that, right? So those things happen. What happens when your mind is clear, when your thoughts and emotions are clear, then you know what to do. You are the person that will know the answer, but you have to allow it to appear. You should get your thoughts cleared. You should get your emotions cleared. You should have some kind of a calmness in your mind. When that calmness is there, of course you find the answer, right? So that's why we say you may be living a busy life. Still, it is important that you spend some alone time, right? As walking, sitting, you can spend. As walking in nature, you can spend, right? Some alone time is important, especially during the coming time. It's the holiday season, right? So you tend to get really busy during this season. It's easier to work actually. It's easier to work because during holidays, you are even more busy. You have so many things to attend to. You have so many social gatherings, right? So during this time also, you have to make sure that you are focusing on yourself as well. You are spending some alone time. Otherwise, you will create more and more problems. Sometimes when we meet various people, they have various attitudes, right? So it's important that you have your mind, you have your thoughts cleared, right? You should have some kind of a calmness, peace in your mind facing these social events. You should clear your thoughts, clear your emotions every day before you go to these gatherings, right? So make sure that you are spending some time on yourself as well. Make sure that you don't become a slave in this life. Make sure that you have some alone time. That's important. That's why we say formal practice is important. Formal practice is totally focusing on your body and mind, knowing your bodily feelings as well as thoughts, emotions, becoming aware of them. That's important. That's important. That will prepare you for the day. If you sit early in the morning, at least for 30 minutes, if you just sink in, then it's a preparation for the entire day. You get your head cleared, right? And you are prepared for the things that are to come. At least try to start your day with 30 minutes of sitting. Then try to end your day with 30 minutes of walking. That type of approach you have to take. So that's your 1 hour of alone time. You spend some time on yourself. Probably earlier you used to spend a lot of time on your family and friends, on your work. But now you have to change your priorities. You have to prioritize yourself as well. You have to prioritize your mental health as well. That's why it's important to find some space. It's important to go for a walk alone. It's important that you sit for a while. It's important that you walk for a while, right? So these things are important. And when you do that, you clear your mind. You know what are the things that are in your head. You know your thoughts, emotions. You know what your body is saying you. You know the message that your body is saying. So when we know, when you are aware, then of course you can go to these social events. You can face them much better. You can do your work. You can attend to your family members. You can do them much better. That type of a practice we are developing little by little. So it's important that you are spending some time on yourself, on your practice. So that's the message I want to give today. And I wish you all the best with your practice.
Thank you and much merits, Bhante. Very valuable talk. With that, we are about to wrap up today's sessions. We started today's session with a very valuable and sort of burning questions of everyone. What is the meaning of life? And we all share our personal view to that questions. And then we had a really good sessions, listening to some instructions, how to develop our mindfulness, and also sharing others' thoughts. Then we move on to the talk of the Bhante, which is, I guess, very important for us in terms of how we relieve ourselves from not being a slave. And that is, I think, struck a chord of my head as well. If we awake at 8 hours, so I'm now from Treon, I'm planning to at least, spend few hours for myself. That's the message, I guess, the cream of the talk today. So I would like to already I'll share the instruction sheets and everything. I would like to thank Venerable Bhante and also like to pass the merits accrued from today's program for Bhante's own spiritual well-being. And also, I would like to pass those merits to the Chief Abbot of the initiator of the mindfulness program, who is Chief Abbot of Nissarana Vanaya Forest Monastery, Miturigala, Most Venerable Udurigama Dhammajiva Mahathero, and also the monks residing in the Nissarana Vanaya. We would like to pass all those merits to their well-being, spiritual well-being as well. And also, I would like to thank all the organizers. Your relentless effort and also contribution help us to continue this program today and up to date. And also the participants. Without you, we can't hold these sessions. And I also encourage you to bring as many people who are searching for the meaning of life, and you will find the answer. With that, I would like to set aside a few seconds. If you have any questions or any thoughts about the program, or if you have any questions, please raise Zoom hand and I will let you unmute. Otherwise, if you have no questions, I'll conclude the sessions today. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a wonderful, mindful week. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Bhante. Thank you all.